Okay, so when you hear the name Arthur Schopenhauer, I bet one word just pops into your head: pessimism. But what if I told you his whole philosophy is way more than just a gloomy attitude? It's this deep, incredibly detailed, and surprisingly logical diagnosis of what it means to be human, one that really makes you question everything you thought you knew about life.
So let's just start with this huge assumption that most of us never, ever think to question, right? We spend pretty much our whole lives chasing happiness. We think it's the end goal, the whole point of being here. But what if that's completely wrong?
And boom, there's Schopenhauer's answer. It's pretty jarring. He just flips the whole script on us. He says that if you look at the world honestly, you can only come to one conclusion. Suffering isn't some bug in the system, it's the central feature. And that one provocative idea? It's the key to understanding his entire worldview.
Now, to really get how radical this was, you have to understand what he was up against. Back then, the big idea in philosophy came from Leibniz, and it was super optimistic. It basically said this is the best of all possible worlds, and that evil isn't really a thing, it's just a lack of good. Schopenhauer looked at that and just said, no way. For him, pain and evil are the real forces in the world. Happiness? That's the illusion. It's just the temporary break from all the pain.
Okay, so if we accept his premise for a minute, that suffering is our default setting, the next logical question is why? I mean, where's all this coming from? Schopenhauer was convinced he had found the one single root cause of it all. And this brings us to the absolute core of his entire system, this concept he called the will to live, or sometimes just the will. Now, this is not your personal conscious desire to live. It's way bigger than that. Think of it like a cosmic force, this blind, endless, hungry striving that powers literally everything, from a planet spinning around a star to a flower reaching for the sun to your own deepest, most hidden desires.
So, the really crucial thing to get here is that this will doesn't have a big plan or some ultimate purpose. Nope. Its only goal is to want, to strive, to just keep on existing. It's like this one single engine humming beneath the surface of everything. And because every single living thing is just another expression of this same striving will, well, conflict is baked into the system. It's a world built on struggle.
But how does this huge, abstract, cosmic thing actually affect our day-to-day lives? Well, because we humans are the most complicated expressions of the will, we feel its constant hunger the most. It means we are basically hardwired to never be satisfied. We always want more because the will itself can never, ever be filled.
Schopenhauer lays out this cycle, and it's basically the unwinnable game of life. It starts with a need, right? A desire. And that itself is a kind of pain. So you strive to get the thing you want. If you succeed, you get this very brief moment of satisfaction, which, remember, is really just the pain going away for a second. But what happens next? Not peace, boredom. A new, empty kind of suffering that immediately creates a new desire. It is a perfect, inescapable hamster wheel.
And he just sums it up so perfectly with this quote. Our life, he says, is just swinging back and forth, like a pendulum, between the pain of wanting something and the pain of having nothing to want. That's it. Need and boredom.
All right, this is where the philosophy gets incredibly dark, and it's a question you just have to ask. If existence is really this bleak, this inescapable trap of suffering, then why not just check out? I mean, isn't suicide the only logical move in this game? And here's where Schopenhauer delivers maybe his most shocking and misunderstood argument of all. His answer is a definitive no. He argues that suicide, far from being a rejection of the will to live, is actually its strongest possible affirmation. I know, it sounds totally contradictory, but let's unpack that. Okay, here's the key difference. The person who ends their life isn't rejecting the will itself. They're rejecting the painful conditions that are getting in its way. They still desperately want a happy life. The will is screaming inside them. It's an act of pure, frustrated desire. For Schopenhauer, the real escape is something way more radical. It's rejecting the act of wanting in the first place. So if that's not the escape hatch, is there any way out? Is there any path to freedom from this cycle at all? Schopenhauer thought so, but it's not easy. He laid out a path, not to happiness, but to what he called redemption. He actually laid out 3 different ways we can try to quiet down that constant striving of the will. The first is through art. You know that feeling when you're completely lost in a piece of music or a painting? For a moment, you stop wanting anything. You're just observing. The second path is compassion. When you truly realize that the same suffering will is in every other person, every other animal, it breaks down your ego and leads you to act ethically. And then there's the final, most extreme path, asceticism, a conscious, deliberate denial of all the will's desires to achieve total detachment.
You see, this completely redefines the whole point of life. For Schopenhauer, the goal isn't to be happy. That's just another trick the will plays on you. The real, true goal is to find a state of quiet, of peace. It's a redemption from the struggle of existence itself.
In the end, Schopenhauer leaves us with this really powerful image of life as a kind of dream, or maybe a nightmare, that's being spun by this restless cosmic will. And it forces us to ask ourselves this final, really profound question. If all of this is just a dream, what would it actually mean to wake up?
This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.